Welcome back to On Texas Football. I'm Jeff Howe, joined by CJ Vogel. Time to go over Steve Sarkisian's pregame Zoom call every Thursday. Sark meets with the media before kickoff, and the Zoom call before the Georgia game is in the books. We'll break down that call here in just a second. But first, I want to thank our sponsor for this edition of On Texas Football. That's our friends over at Hayes City Store. There are very few restaurants that when you go to them, you know right away it's a special place, and Hayes City Store is definitely one of those places. Scratch-made Texas comfort food is what they're all about. They've got the famous truck stop enchiladas, the award-winning chicken fried steak, the homemade desserts. It's all good, and it's all made from scratch. They've got live music 6 nights a week, 50 beer taps, ice-cold long necks, and tasty margaritas. They've got 13 TVs in the ice house. That is the perfect game day setup, whether you're out there on a Saturday or a Sunday. And if you're out there on Sunday, they've got that brunch menu, which is outstanding from 10 to 3. Hayes City Store is dog-friendly. They've got a tree net for the kids. So gather up your whole crew. Head on out to Hayes City Store. For more information, check out the website, HayesCityStoreTX.com. Hayes City Store, it's uniquely Texas. CJ, let's get into this Zoom call. And we kind of got into this a little bit on the Wednesday live stream in terms of Sark's preparation with the team. How does he motivate this team and get them ready? I think it's very almost surgical-like, a very kind of Bill Walshy intellectual approach. And that's what I took away from this call. CJ talked about the intent was there this week. The mental approach he felt was right. I don't want to say it's a confident coach, but it looks like a coach that feels good about the work that got put in this week.
Yeah, definitely. And we've talked about it, whether it be laser focus, whether it just be completely intentional practices. Those were both mentioned again today by Steve Sarkisian. It feels like it's been, the biggest word on the word blob. You hear all of this coach speak, and those are the 2 words that you've heard the most of so far from Steve Sarkisian, dating back to Monday with his opening week press conference. That's encouraging, right? Now the team needs to take that intent and that focus with them to Athens, but I think the leadership of this team is making it to a point, Jeff, that you don't have any more room for error, right? Where you are in this point of the schedule, it's razor thin. So it's now or never for this Texas team, and it's a great opportunity on a national scale to go out there and make a big-time impact.
And CJ, I think that's why the revenge factor, we talk about it on the outside, but Sark has downplayed it. We've heard the Texas players downplay it. Kirby downplayed it this week by saying, hey, this team has not beaten Texas.
Right.
And you think about that, and you say, okay, that might be coach speak. But to your point, Texas sees it, look, if we lose, our season might be over. And if you're Georgia, yeah, you may be done with the SEC, but if you take a loss, you still got to go to Atlanta and play Georgia Tech the last weekend of the regular season. So you're not done. So I don't think, CJ, either of these teams can afford to be focused on anything except what's right in front of them right now.
Yeah, it's the ultimate test of what's right in front of your face. And, I know the playoff is releasing the committee's top 12 and who's in and who's out and, what type of situations and scenarios can happen later on. But Sark said the team's done a great job of blocking out all the hoopla, as he called it. He said, look, they're intentional and focused on the team at hand. And, Georgia has some flaws. They have some big-time strengths. He said their team has been focused in on doing what is best for them against the Georgia Bulldogs on Saturday, and that's basically all there is to it.
CJ, one thing, and this is kind of big picture, Sark talked about this, which is scheduling, and he said he doesn't like the way it's going on in the SEC, where Texas has 3 conference games remaining. Some teams are going to be done with conference play here pretty soon. And, one school that stands out, I'm not picking on anybody here, but I look at Ole Miss's schedule, and you look at Ole Miss's non-conference schedule, Georgia State at home, Tulane at home, Washington State at home, the Citadel at home. But then you look in conference play, they play LSU, they play OU, they play Georgia. That schedule has not played out maybe the way we thought it would. But, CJ, do you feel like it evens out, or do you agree with Sark that right now, at least the way it's configured, it's not equitable scheduling in this conference?
No, I definitely agree with Sark. And look, it's not, right? To get Samford week 12 before you have to go play your biggest rival, I mean, what a break, right? When you lead that in with a bye week as well. Look, I mean, your November should be grueling. Your November should separate the week, from, the teams that can compete. And right now it's not, because as you mentioned, Ole Miss basically done with SEC play. Georgia after this weekend, done with SEC play. Where's the continuity? Where's, the ultimate, strength of this conference is being able to say it is a grind. Well, if it's a grind for one team 9 weeks in a row, it should be a grind for the other 15 teams 9 weeks in a row rather than spread out all the way through week 1. November should be those games that you remember, Jeff. It shouldn't be for games that are for Stanford.
Yeah, I didn't like the random non-conference game in November before Texas joined the SEC. I don't like it now that Texas is in the SEC, and I hope going to a 9-game schedule that game goes away, but we shall see what the future holds. CJ, I like the fact that Sark talked about Colin Simmons today on the call, and I don't know that he gets enough credit for being as well-rounded of a player as he's been. He talked about the Florida game specifically, where he was an A-plus run defender at a time where Texas really needed him to step up and help stop the run, and really convincing him that, hey, the sacks will come to you, is what Sark said. They've told Colin Simmons. And CJ, I've talked about it all week. This is a game where you need him. If Texas wins this game, it'll be because Colin Simmons and Anthony Hill and guys like that will have played their best game. We haven't seen the best of Colin Simmons, but it's nice to think that he's getting to the point where maybe he's really starting to get on that trajectory where we all think he's headed.
No, he's ramped up his game ever since that Florida game when they ran 3 straight plays right at him. One of them ended up being a holding, which negated a tackle for loss. But it was 3 consecutive plays, Jeff, that Florida ran outside zone right to him, and all 3 went for 0 or negative yards. It was impressive. And Sark said, hey, we kind of had to sit him down and talk to him and say, we know the sack numbers aren't there, but you can still impact this game with your pass rushing ability, with the way that opposing offensive lines and pass protection units gravitate towards you, and as well as what you do in the run game as well. He said, look, you're a great player. It doesn't matter what the numbers say. And he also kind of echoed that about Georgia, saying, hey, I know that they're in the 120s when it comes to sacks and tackles for loss, but they got great players. They're going to find ways to impact and pressure the quarterback. What we need to do is make sure that they can't. And what they need to make sure for Colin Simmons is that if his numbers or pressures aren't necessarily showing up, that he's still making that impact on the field that makes life difficult for opposing offenses.
And we heard Sark use the term that you'll hear coaches use it a lot, cage the quarterback, basically make it really hard for him to leave the pocket. And you're talking about discipline rush, stand in your rush lanes, playing assignment sound football. And then, look, when you got the speed and athleticism Georgia has at linebacker, it's very easy to talk about that and see it happen. But, CJ, that's where this Kirby Smart defense, it's really one of those kind of old school Nick Saban defenses where you're big and athletic, you can 2-gap up front and take up blockers and let your linebackers go make plays. That, to me, CJ, is the added dimension for Arch. It's not just about seeing pressure, feeling pressure, getting rid of the ball. It's, hey, there are going to be times in this game where you can scramble, but because of how Georgia plays it, that opportunity to scramble might get erased pretty quick. So there's a lot on Arch from an upstairs standpoint in this game that he's got to get right.
Yeah, I think the ultimate decisions of taking off with your legs and, risking another hit from this talented Georgia linebacking unit, or finding the dump down, whether it's a tight end or a back out of the backfield, that's going to be very key for this game, right? It could be the difference between getting nicked up and not being 100% in the second half versus, hey, maybe your running back breaks one, or maybe now, the Georgia linebackers have to account a little bit more for the tight end or the running back out of the backfield, allowing some of those running lanes to open up. So it's a great crossroads for Arch. And look, he's been improving ever since that Ohio State game, Jeff. So I'm excited to see how he comes out in probably the biggest road test outside of that Georgia or that Ohio State game earlier this year.
CJ, I'll give you the floor as we wrap this up. You asked Sark a recruiting question, so get into your question and what you thought of Sark's answer.
Yeah, well, I'm here in Buckhead right now. I made the trip over this morning, got here just in time for Sark to start speaking. I asked him, I said, look, you played in Florida, Mississippi, and now Georgia. For a team that has recruited this area as often as you have lately, is this an opportunity for you to go out there and kind of stake your claim into some turf and kind of plant your flag? And he said, no. We have a great university. We play in a big metro city. Our university and education is really, really good in comparison to other SEC schools. He said it's just a great opportunity for us to go out there and play our brand. It's not to take claim of new land or recruiting turf. Or, he kind of quoted it back to me. He said, we're not here to plant a flag, but we are out here to promote ourselves and play the way that we want to play. And ultimately, that is attractive to kids elsewhere in the country. So, maybe I went a little overboard there, Jeff, with the plant the flag, but I do like that Sark is saying it won't stop us one way or the other, whether we win or whether we lose when it comes to recruiting these areas. And Texas will continue to be a threat in Georgia, Mississippi, Alabama, Florida, all the way throughout the South.
CJ, I think the best statement Texas can make would be to go into Athens and beat Kirby Smart and Georgia in their house and become the first team, at least that I found, since 2019 LSU to win at least 3 games in a regular season against top 10 AP opponents. It would help Sark shed the label that, hey, you can't beat Kirby. Texas gets over the hump against Georgia. And more importantly, it keeps you alive for a berth in Atlanta and a berth in the college football playoff. Heck of a chance, CJ, for Texas to make a statement on Saturday.
It absolutely is, across both sides of the ball for Anthony Hill, Colin Simmons, Ryan Wingo, Arch Manning, everybody else in between. Boy, is this a great chance to go out there and redeem some of those nicks and bruises that they sustained earlier this year, right? Florida, Ohio State, they're obviously top of mind when the playoff discussion comes up. But if you're able to add a Georgia win on the road under your belt, look, there's, to your point, Jeff, 3 top 10 wins in a single season.
No doubt. CJ, thank you for the knowledge and expertise as always, and safe travels while you're out on the road. Thank you to Matthew behind the scenes for producing it. Thank you to our friends at Hayes City Store for sponsoring it. If you're not a member over at ontexasfootball.com, you can head over to the site right now and sign up using the promo code OTFOG, and that'll get you 1 year of access at ontexasfootball.com for just $39.95. Make sure that you like this video and that you're subscribed to the On Texas Football YouTube channel. That way, whether it's here on the channel or on the site, you're not missing any of our coverage before, during, and after every Texas game this season. For CJ, for Matthew, for the entire On Texas Football staff, I'm Jeff Howe. Thank you so much for watching and listening. And until next time, hook 'em.